What's up?
What's going on, guys? So as everybody can see, Michael has made his portal decision and has decided to stick with the tailgate.
That's right.
He's going to it.
Yep. I decided, I was like, after checking out all the options last week, looking at all the different servers and everything else, just like, you know what? It's just too much work. Why transition?
We're glad that's the reason that it just would be too hard.
I gotta learn new people's names.
I don't like you guys, but man, it's too hard to leave.
It's just too hard to leave. Oh man, most of the time people don't want to hear what Tennessee fan has to say, anyways. So
that's just on Twitter.
It's also becoming YouTube now too.
Well, anyway. Hey, as our title says, the playoff is set and the portal is open. So obviously, we're going to be talking about the playoffs and the portal. So,
we're talking about that. I thought we were going to talk about Belichick. I thought that's what we were going to talk about.
Portal. Maybe that decides or helps some people decide to go.
Sure, go to North Carolina. Yeah. Anyways,
might swing some guys.
Yeah. Well, let's roll out an intro real quick. Yeah, that's pretty banger. That intro is still pretty cool.
It is. I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It is.
It is. Anyways, so we obviously this past weekend we had all of the conference championships. I think Big 12 also just had a regular bowl game. That did not feel like a conference championship.
Oh, it did.
Very lopsided. And when it's that lopsided in the Big 12, it's a big deal. That means that Iowa State was way overrated.
Mm-hmm. I feel like overrated all year. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just they clearly didn't play anybody. Yeah. Arizona State showed up to play.
Showed up that way.
Yes. And Scatterbo decided at the end of the in his press conference, he was like, "I'm the best running back in the country. No one can tell me otherwise." I'm like, "Hey man, you're confident.
Confidence is important, but when you've got guys like Genty and Dylan Sampson, Dylan Sampson, obviously you're wrong."
Yeah, I mean, you're in the
conference.
Yeah.
Oh, well, and he's one of the best running backs in the country, 100%. Is he the best?
Five.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, like his impressive stat is his yards after contact. Like those are impressive.
JT has better though.
Yes,
that's true.
Have you seen those things where it's like running backs the yards this year, and it's like Ashton Genty number 1, Ashton Genty after contact number 2. And then it drops down to like number 3. So his are impressive, but at the end of the day.
Yeah. And, I wasn't expecting the ACC to be as much of a nail biter as it was, especially after the first 2 quarters. That was kind of strange.
That had me a little nervous. So I was like, is it going to be how big of a blowout is going to be, and how's it going to show?
Mm-hmm.
Clemson got beat by Georgia early in the year, and then the week before lost to South Carolina to completely destroy SMU. I feel like would have been horrible for the entire conference.
Well, and to Saban's argument, which he was talking about on College Game Day, he's like, Dabo knows how to prepare for the ACC championship. It's like, no offense to SMU, they're new. So let's give them props for making it to the ACC championship. And and I also must say, this is the second year in a row where Dennis's dark horse to win the ACC has come in second.
Yeah,
which is Clemson was going to be my one.
No, I know.
Yeah,
pick Clemson to win, but you said your dark horse was SMU, and we were like, no way. And SMU, lo and behold, shows up to be second place. So. I mean, just like Louisville last year. So, hey, impressive.
But don't worry. The next time you're not on the show, we're gonna make a clip that is me saying that I picked them. Don't worry about it.
It's true. It's a little bit harder to do that now when we're all remote, but not next week and the following few weeks.
I mean, if Luke wants to take credit to actually being right once in a while, like I'm more than happy to share.
I do need it. I need
it. Yep. And then the SEC championship was interesting. A lot of people were like, yeah, it felt like a really good championship. And I was like, I don't know. It just felt like two teams that couldn't get their offensive moving.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. The offenses just seem sluggish. And realistically, I think a lot of it's going to come down to what Sark had to say at the halftime show or at the halftime interview. That was, I think, pretty telling. I mean, I'd never looked at the disparity in calls in terms of numbers, but there were some pretty glaring misses that they didn't call that would have helped Texas out a little bit. Now, I don't think, you look at the end of the game, I don't know that that's going to drastically change what happens at the end of the game, but it's going to change a drive. It's going to change a drive or two, and that's going to possibly add some points on there. But yeah, it just seemed very sluggish and very, the first half was boring. Let's just say first half was boring.
Yeah. The first half was boring. The second half was interesting because you got to see Gunnar Stockton for the first time, like really take the helm for Georgia.
I honestly feel like he played so much better than Beck. He could play like he's like been there the entire year and not just like, hey, we're gonna throw you in the second half.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's that's the difference between someone who is vying for a QB1 position versus I've just got it locked down. And and it's kind of how Beck has come across all year for me. So,
I go ahead. Sorry.
No, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just saying, and there's something freeing in my opinion of going into a game as big as that is. It's an SEC championship. We've already seen a lot of coaches this year talk about how the championship games. Lane Kiffin's the one who said, is it really going to be something that you're shooting for because you're getting another game that you have to play? But thinking of it from a backup standpoint, more than likely you're already in the playoffs. So you don't have to worry about like, if I go in here and blow it, we're still in the playoffs. I'm not like screwing the team over. So he's able to come in with a little bit more, I don't know, like relaxation, a little more grace. Yeah. There's just this, he doesn't have to worry about it as much. So he can go out there and just sling it and make mistakes and it's okay. So, I think that there's something to be said. Now, if this happens when they play in the playoffs, it's not going to be the same thing. So we'll see what happens.
True. Yeah. That's exactly right. The thing that's interesting to me, I think, is the fact that, when you mentioned, like, if you're playing in the conference championship, you're likely not going to be out like of the playoffs. But we did deal with a situation this weekend with the ACC championship where that really could have not been the case.
Right.
And so for all the people that watch our program, that they watch our program because they're under a rock for the rest of college football news. We appreciate you, one, for being here. But two, Alabama's not in the playoffs this year, guys. And there was 12 teams.
Yeah. Like that's just over an ACC team again. Like,
but yes. To your point earlier, Luke, if it had stayed a blowout, SMU would have been out.
I think so.
And it's just like you can't look that bad in the conference championship and stay in. Like,
right.
I 100% would have expected if Oregon had blown out Penn State would have still been in because they didn't have enough losses to be out, but they probably would have dropped to where they weren't hosting a game.
Oh,
just to be honest. So which leads us to, I guess, the Big Ten championship and the tale of what defenses.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I was so confused.
It tightened up a little bit in the second half, a little bit. I combined, I think, 27 points. So, very little bit. But the first half was just kind of this like, man, Penn State always kind of hangs their hat on having a good defense. Oregon has talked about having a good defense this year, which they did. But you're just watching it going, yeah, this does not look like two teams who pride themselves on playing defensive football.
No. Yeah.
I wonder if it was kind of one of those things though, where like the Big Ten, just as a conference, like it's not to say they didn't want to win the game. They just also the style of play a play that they do. They like, I feel like they didn't want to risk injuring one of their players though too. So they're like, hey, a defensive player can easily get called for targeting when it's not a targeting call, as we saw for Arizona State game, as we saw for like the Texas game, where like they're trying to call targeting, like, hey, you could have now you're a key defensive player could be missing a half or could be out entirely for something simple as that, let alone getting hurt.
Yeah.
So it kind of just like we're there. We're not going to do a whole lot.
Right. Definitely one of those, like in those situations, you kind of, I can see them telling their players like, hey, if it's questionable, pull up. Like, don't get kicked out of a game. Don't get, especially second half, missing a first half of a playoff game, like for something that, could go either way.
Sure.
So,
yeah. Well, and so that leads us into the playoffs and everything like that. The first round of the playoffs were obviously picked. And I just want to get kind of y'all's thought on some of the more interesting matchups. I think Luke and I both agree, and I imagine Dennis agrees, that probably the most competitive matchup of the first week will be Tennessee versus Ohio State. And just because it's two teams that are at least more equal in caliber, at least from a standpoint of like what they've put on the field this year, just from film and everything like that.
They kind of lost the same exact ways too.
It's similar. Yeah, similar.
No, and that's been one of my biggest things about. Do we want to talk about that game first, or we want to go through the other ones?
Let's talk about the most, let's get through the other ones first, because the other ones are not as competitive.
Yeah,
they really aren't. Like, not to throw shade on any of the other, like the selection committee arguably did what they could with what they had.
I think the other games have an interesting point.
Sure.
Like, for each of those games, because like if we just mentioned Penn State because they're going to play SMU, and I feel like the interesting point of that, where like Penn State has struggled with any team with a number before the name, so it's like how are they going to struggle versus SMU at a home game? And if they were to lose, is that like because SMU is good or because they're ranked?
Right.
Like, which one is it? Like,
wouldn't that mean they were good?
No, like it can be. I mean, there's some teams who aren't that good that are ranked.
Right.
So it's just kind of be like, why is Penn State struggling with this game here?
Well, and they've got, again, to me, this goes back to, and the interesting thing about the playoffs for me is that it comes down to this is a great example. You've got Penn State, who's supposed to win, and you've got SMU, who everybody is going, congratulations on getting in because you're in the ACC. And so SMU has nothing to lose. Penn State has everything to lose. Yep. Penn State loses to SMU, and it's a lot like Ohio State losing in Missouri last year in the bowl game. Like, it's just kind of that, like, okay, what happened? And so, this is, again, going back to Georgia's quarterback or backup quarterback coming in and looking great. SMU can come in there and just go, hey guys, we're not supposed to win it. Let's just go.
Yeah.
Let's just pull out all the stops.
Let's be real too. Like Penn State, everyone's been saying Penn State got the easiest draw for the first round, arguably the first through third rounds almost. But let's say SMU goes up there, pulls the upset, because again, it's a noon kickoff, because man, Big Ten loves noon kickoffs. And hey, you should thank Tennessee for bringing y'all a night game.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No, trust me, we're tired of them. Anyways,
well, you're used to them too.
Well, kind of. But anywho, you've got Penn State at a noon kickoff, doing their whiteout. They're like, yeah, we're gonna like really go all hard at this and whatnot. But like, if SMU pulls the upset, I think SMU is going. Oh, look at that! I'm giving a thumbs up on.
Yeah,
forgot about my reactions were on. Silly Mac.
I don't have Mac.
But if they win that, I honestly really do think that they have a solid chance of beating Boise State. Boise State's a little too one-dimensional. I think Boise State is a little too one-dimensional for the playoffs in general. Doesn't change the fact that Ashton Jeanty is a phenomenal running back. I don't know what he's going to do against any defense with a pulse. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's Jeanty, I think, is kind of that. We'll see. But not to get too far ahead of that. I think I'm with you. I think SMU, I'm kind of leaning towards this being my upset.
Sure.
Over the college football playoffs. Now Dennis and I think was it Dennis, was it me and you last week that said we should do a bracket?
Oh, just like
just like college for just like March Madness. The three of us will do a bracket.
I'd be so up for that.
With scores.
With score. Ooh.
Scores is that'll be challenging.
Okay, point spread. We'll do point spread, but we have to we need comments on what the punishment should be. Nothing bad. We're not gonna hurt ourselves or eat bull testicles or something.
I feel like
those are those all day long.
There should be something specific for your guys' game though too, since you guys are playing each other. I feel like you guys got to put something on the line there.
I don't know what we're putting on the line. We were originally like all ready to go to Columbus, but then we looked at ticket prices and we're like, never mind.
Unless we can get some sideline passes.
Yeah, I heard that Ohio State is only required to set aside 3,500 tickets for Tennessee.
Yeah, that's right. We ain't giving you nothing.
Which is interesting because it's usually like 10% of your stadium, which is what you're supposed to be setting aside.
Yeah, which would be about 10,000.
Yeah, anyways, that's like
so Penn State.
You got to remember, people don't show up to the night game; they don't show up to the day game. So you have to reduce the attendance there. They're so used to they show up in the morning. They're like, "Oh, it's a night game."
They're gonna be passed out by like 2:00.
Yeah, because they're used to being hammered by midday,
like noon. Yeah,
exactly.
So SMU, you think SMU is going to pull the upset?
I'm loosely stating until I fill out a bracket that SMU is pulling an upset.
Sure. So that's fair. We don't need to call make any calls right now.
We got
unless we really want to. I wouldn't be surprised if SMU did pull an upset. But yeah, we'll keep you guys posted as to what our brackets look like once we get them filled out.
Maybe we can do that. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll figure it out.
Another interesting matchup for the first weekend is going to be Indiana and Notre Dame. I think that's going to be the second most competitive matchup. And
I agree.
And I think Notre Dame fans are approaching it the wrong way. I think they just think they're just going to they're like, yeah, it's like what we did to Army. It's like Army and Indiana aren't on the same level. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Very different teams. And as much as I think that Notre Dame will win this game, that's my personal opinion. I think they will because they've been playing tougher competition than Indiana has for the majority of the year. I just
appreciate that.
Hey,
you're throwing shots early on.
Hey, that's one game. 11 other games they played nobodies.
True.
So
I mean, at least Indiana lost to a decent team. So like,
what, NIU's not a decent team?
Did they even make it to a bowl?
I think they went 7-5, didn't they?
Did they?
Like, I have no clue.
Either way,
but if you look at the all of the teams that Notre Dame has played all year, they're all middle of the pack versus a lot of the bottom barrel teams. I'm like it's for me, it's just like I think that they're a little bit more prepared. I think Indiana's going to show up. I think they're going to make it a game. I think it'll be competitive, but I also think that there's just going to be something that Notre Dame's going to bring to the game, an energy that they're going to bring to the game. It's just going to be hard for Indiana to win.
And they're only going to have 11 players on the field?
Probably only.
Okay.
And none of those players will get bear maced.
I feel like it's gonna be interesting because like they're both actually, it's an in-state game for both.
Yeah.
So it's like I feel like it's gonna add another kind of layer to it as well. Like, hey, so if Indiana fans are coming, they're basically gonna be like, I mean, it's not a far travel. It's how much of a travel game it is. I don't know the distance between two schools, but I do imagine quite a bit of Indiana fans actually being at that game.
Sure.
Yep. Yeah, I think to your point, Notre Dame, their fans are just they're doing the whole Notre Dame thing. They're still acting like they are the best team out there, and that for some reason, I don't know why we're number 4, or is it no? Why we're number 5? Where are they? What are they ranked?
Well, they're not number 5. Yeah, they're going to be
number 7.
Number 7. They're number 7.
Breaking.
But the Notre Dame fans just seem like they think a lot higher of themselves than what they really are. And not just that, but I think they think a lot less of Indiana than what they are. And I think that we've talked about them all year, how impressive they've been with the fire that Signetti's bringing. And again, I don't know what I'm still kind of going back and forth on this one. I want to lean towards Indiana on this one. I think talent, just the blue chip, players that Notre Dame has compared to Indiana might be the turning point. But who knows? Signetti's had these guys ready, so we'll see.
No, I mean, I agree with Luke. I'm actually going to lean more towards Indiana taking this game. I don't think Signetti is going to basically allow his team to lose to 2 high-ranked teams where, like, hey, to basically show his program. He's like, hey, we may lose to I don't think they're going to win it all, but if they go to the next round, like, hey, we may lose another we're obviously going to lose another game, but we're not going to lose as soon as we play another ranked team. I don't think he's really going to allow that for his players. And so I feel like he's going to become extremely just like get the most out of his players to be able to kind of beat Notre Dame. Like in a close game, Notre Dame obviously has the players, the blue chip players, just more of that kind of skill, and they can kind of mimic what Ohio State was able to do versus them. They have those type of players. They don't have the same level of talent, but they have the type of players where they can be able to kind of replicate the type of defense they played versus Ohio State played versus Indiana. But I still think Indiana is going to pull out with it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Signetti, we've seen, kind of this year what he's able to do week over week. Now, obviously, they're game planning a lot more than just the week before, but having weeks to kind of get ready for a game, even against a team like Notre Dame, I think that's going to be very critical. It's going to help them out a whole lot. So the more that we've talked, the more that I see Indiana. I'm leaning towards Indiana on this one.
Yeah. So like my thing is like I want Indiana to win. I'm not. I think Notre Dame will win, but I want Indiana to win because I would love to see Indiana versus Georgia, because I've been seeing that fan base and the other, and both fan bases go at each other on Twitter and whatnot all year. Like, yeah, we could totally beat up on you. No, you wouldn't beat up on us. And so I'd really love to see what really actually transpires there. Because that would be really fun.
I would like to see Signetti and Kirby Smart fight.
Oh, well,
that might be kind of fun.
I feel like I'll probably take Signetti. I'm not.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
like, I just feel like he just do like some killer move and just I'm like, okay, yeah, he killed him.
Right.
It just depends. Are we giving them a car to use during the fight? Because Kirby Smart might win if that's the case.
Yeah.
So,
and are there going to be refs? That's another thing too.
Yeah,
it's also true. Yeah, if they're trying to ref for a fair game, then it's going to go in Kirby Smart's way.
It's like the whole. Did you ever watch the what was it, Celebrity Deathmatch?
Dude.
Okay, you did.
Yeah.
All right, what's our next one?
So the next one that's interesting is going to be Clemson versus Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Playing at Texas, and by interesting, I mean it's probably going to be a blowout. The point spread still 12 or 13 points. I think it was, or may have been 11.
I got out here.
Let's go to it.
And it's I think it's close to 2 touchdowns, and which is ridiculous. Like, I mean, that just to me, I'm like, that doesn't show playoff level caliber teams playing on the same field.
No, it goes back to the whole we got to let the ACC in, you know. And when you have an ACC team or an ACC conference that, you know, you've got your Miamis, your Clemsons, all of them are ending up, you know, 2 lost teams. You're going to put these teams in that are going to get, you know, I don't know. Maybe Clemson will surprise us. Maybe, you know, Klubnik has some tricks up his sleeve. Dabo's going to, you know, do something. I don't know. I'm not a big Dabo fan anyway, but we'll see. But yeah, the whole. I think it's 11 points is what ESPN's got it on.
Yeah,
I think Texas covers.
I think Dabo's going to have his team ready. They know how to play when it comes to like the big games for the most part. The biggest question I have for Texas overall is going to be Ewers. Like,
sure,
he's disappeared entirely. Almost, it feels like this entire season. Whenever he's had a big game to play, and like with George, like both Georgia games, he's like, if he would have got taken out this past week for the SEC championship, honestly, I wouldn't be mad. He was not playing like the type of player that everybody says that he is, like he has been in the past. So to me, I'm like, if he shows up, depending on which version, it can be the difference of like Clemson winning, you know, by 10 or Texas winning by 20. So
true. Yeah.
Obviously, I'm never going to say much after what I said about the Ohio State Michigan game. Darren and everybody else will talk about that, but with me calling that point spread and saying that was going to be, you know, covered. I'm not gonna talk too much, and you shouldn't take my words to Vegas at all. But I see Texas kind of running away with this one. And to your point, Ewers, he's looked. I don't know if it's you know, his preparation, not seeing the defenses correctly, or if it's just not showing up in big games. I don't know. It does seem to look weird. It's just in the past he's looked a lot better, even in big game situations. So, but hey, Arch is another one that if he ends up coming in for some reason, you know, I think I'd be all right with that. He seemed to do pretty well when he's been put in that spot. So
so similar to Georgia having their second string QB in, they both of them feel a little bit more comfortable and more willing to just make a mistake and just move on. Ewers is just as stiff as Beck has felt too, like all season. Like they literally
look like they're Ryan Day on the field. It's horrible. Like they just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Now they're fighting.
And then you're gonna look to the coach like, so what happened?
Speaking of Ryan Day and teams that get bear mace, at least one team that gets bear mace, and the other team won't be on that field. We got the best matchup of the weekend, which is going to be Tennessee versus Ohio State. That's a 7.5 point. I think Tennessee's a 7.5 point underdog.
I believe it's something like that.
Yeah.
Which
you want to say numbers? He's like, nope, I'm not gonna just avoid numbers.
I'll say the numbers. I'm just not going to agree with them anymore.
No, well, and I think Luke and I, we were talking about this earlier. Like that game, you know, I totally understand Ohio State being favored for multiple reasons. One of them being they're a higher ranked team. 2, it's a home game. 3, it's in the dead of winter. So, but like this game does feel a lot more like a -3, not a -7.5 kind of game. So, what are y'all's thoughts on this game? Dennis, actually, we'll start with you.
I was about to say, Dennis, go first.
I'm actually gonna lean a little bit towards Ohio, and just because they're the home team.
Ohio's not playing.
Sorry, they know how to win. Ohio State. I'm gonna lean a little bit towards more just because they're their home team, and I feel like that's the main reason they're gonna win. Because in terms of talent level between players, they're pretty even when it comes to it. Like Ohio State might have technically more on the field or recognizable names on the field, but Tennessee, as Michael has been able to teach us all year, on and off camera, that Tennessee definitely has depth. But I feel like being back at home, Ohio State has choked even at home before.
They have.
Yeah, not recently though, right?
Not this month. Wait, was it this month?
No, it wasn't.
Not this month.
Close.
So it wasn't this month. It could be different, but so I'm going to lean just a little bit towards Ohio State. But I genuinely feel like how you were saying earlier, Michael, is I think it's going to be much closer than just a touchdown kind of difference game. I would be surprised if it comes down to even just like anywhere from 3 to 5, to be honest.
I hope it doesn't come down to a last-minute field goal because
look at the bright side. Neither of your kickers can kick. I mean, they can kick. They just can't.
Well, our kicker couldn't kick in the middle of the season. He can kick now.
Yeah.
So he's fixed himself, and he's also a freshman. So we've only got to look up. But yeah, no, I like.
Ohio State's team though play at night with the lights on.
That's going to be the first big question.
I don't know.
I'm much curious about
first night game all season.
We're used to those noon ones, man.
We're used to a different kind of light.
Give us noon. Give us the daylight, man.
That's
Not
right.
that artificial crap.
Yeah. Yep. No. So so my thoughts, aside from just like I think it's going to be closer. This game gives me similar vibes as the Tennessee Alabama game earlier this year, in the sense of like, not that I'm putting Ohio State on the level of Alabama. I think Ohio State's a better team than Alabama. I think that just the type of production that both teams are currently putting on the field is really close to each other. And it really is a toss-up game. It is a give-me game, and arguably should be a really fun game to watch because both teams have the ability to make it just a defensive slugfest, or they could really just boat race each other.
Right.
Which could be really interesting to watch either one of them. And if it gets in a boat race, I don't trust Tennessee to win. I trust Ohio State to win, just from a standpoint of you guys have better receivers, more consistent receivers, I should say. We have a better quarterback, in my personal opinion, who's a little bit more consistent. But if we get into ground and pound and just in the trenches kind of thing, you guys have a phenomenal defensive line, but we have a better run game. So
I mean, as we've seen,
Michael, we
can't run, or they'll continue to run and do the same exact play.
Right, they'll do the same thing.
Good.
So this is a question for this is Michael. We've heard this before, so I'm gonna go get a sandwich and we'll let Michael discuss this.
Yeah, no, you don't need to leave. It's a very quick answer. Yes, it is about Tennessee. Dixieland Delight is a Tennessee song, and Alabama, for some reason, decided they're going to start using it. I don't really understand their history as to why they decided to co-opt a Tennessee song and a song about Tennessee. It's kind of weird. And
there is not the best now.
Well, that's 100% true. But yes, you're correct. It's weird. I don't understand it, but yeah, Alabama does funky stuff all the time. And I mean, like they're called the Crimson Tide, but they have an elephant. Like what does that even mean? But it's also Alabama in general. You've got Auburn, who are the Tigers, but they chant War Eagle. So, like, you just have to ignore the state of Alabama, because it's just.
I will say one of the funniest. I don't know if you've seen the guy on like whatever it is, TikTok, one of them social medias,
one of them
that does the like how teams got their names.
Yeah,
and it's like the three people. The one about Auburn is really funny.
Oh, it's funny.
That one's funny. So
but give us your thoughts, Luke.
So my thought on this, I think Tennessee and Ohio State, when it comes to their years, both coming into the season and throughout the season, are very similar. Both teams came in knowing that they were going to have a good defense, kind of being able to kind of like, we're going to rely on our defense, and having offenses that had the potential to be very, very good, but there was a lot of questions revolving around their quarterback. For Tennessee, it was, is Nico ready? Is he going to be able to kind of live up to the hype that he's had? For Ohio State, it was, is this McCord 2.0, or is this guy going to actually like be able to do something, a little bit better? Arguably, he's been a little bit better, but they've had the same type of struggles throughout the year. Just where one game, defense plays great, offense plays great. You're like, oh my gosh, when everything's clicking, this team looks good. Then they've had games where you're going, I'm the two that I'm thinking of is Nico running out of bounds instead of throwing it to the end zone. And what game was that? Who did they lose to for that?
Arkansas.
Lose to Arkansas because he runs out of bounds. And then Will Howard slides against Oregon. Like, so they had these plays where you're just going, I don't understand what you were thinking. They've both had guys who have stepped up on the offensive side. Obviously, JJ Smith has looked really, really good as a freshman wide receiver. And Dylan Sampson has looked amazing as a running back. So it's just kind of this, like, they're consistently inconsistent, if that makes any sense. And so I think it's going to be a fun game. I think that we'll just see, one of the other things that Big Ten teams for years have always said, well, let's get the SEC up to the north in the winter, and let's see them play here. And honestly, we're seeing it. And Tennessee, I think, is built to do that. Tennessee, their offensive line, they're good in the trenches. They've got a great running back. So this one's going to be some issues.
Well, and the mistake that a lot of people make when a lot of the fan bases of the Big Ten have made when they're like, well, we need to get to the SEC up here to play some games in the dead of winter. It's like, yes, Florida teams would really not, they would struggle. Alabama would probably not do as well as they should. But the temperament of Knoxville, Tennessee is pretty close to Columbus, Ohio. It's definitely colder in Columbus, but only ever so slightly, because to remember, Knoxville is right next to the Smoky Mountains, which gets cold and everything like that. So it's one of those things like what's the forecast? The last thing that I checked, obviously it's a week and a half away from now. But last I checked, it's supposed to be expected to be like 25 to 30 degrees that night with very, very low winds. And Darren playing. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, that would be fun. I think that would be a fun game to watch. It would be just a running game. You probably would not see many throws at all. But we got to run. We Midwest. I understand. I live in Colorado. I'm interested to see what that game does. I don't think weather is going to be as much of a factor unless there is snow on the ground. I think that's when it's going to be a problem. But right now there's no snow on the forecast. So
yeah, I will say, if this turns, I'm in Nashville, but 30 is considered. Hey, Nashville. That's where we're at. Well, me and Dennis.
Not anymore.
But if this turns into on the ground, if this turns into a ground game, that's where I think Tennessee has the advantage here. We've got elite running backs. Our offensive line is depleted.
I think one of the guys in the offensive line also entered the transfer portal. didn't they?
We had a couple offensive line enter the transfer portal, but nobody that starts, which is surprising considering like you'd think injuries, like everybody on the offensive line would start. But we had somebody, Simmons, declared for the draft. So, but I think he's hurt anyway. So,
well, yeah.
But yeah, so we'll see. But I don't know. This is going to be it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it, but also kind of scared as an Ohio State fan.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I'm just excited for it. I'm excited I understand why you may have a little bit more apprehension towards the game because you guys have been in the playoffs already. I'm just excited because Tennessee's in the playoffs. I'm like, hey, who cares? We win or lose, we made it to the playoffs.
And for Tennessee fans, there's not as much expectation on you.
Nope.
We've got a team that from the beginning of this year, everybody was like, "Oh, you bought a championship team. It's national title or bust."
Yeah, I mean, I said that.
You did.
I did.
And I think I said no, but now it's at least national championship or bust per day.
I think you were saying no because you were like, no, as long as he wins the other games, like as long as he won against Michigan, as long as he wins the Big Ten.
I'm pretty sure he didn't do either of those.
And that's what I'm saying. Now it's definitely he has to win the national championship.
He's got a big goose egg going on.
Natty, he would be okay. But as Michael was saying, he needs to win it all now.
He is over. He is like even winning the Natty. Like that's on the players. In my mind, it goes straight to like that's on the players. I don't know what he did. They must have called their own plays. They won it. They're going to win in spite of him.
Yep. That's true. We'll see. Again, we're thinking we're going to do potentially an earlier episode after that game or that weekend, just to kind of since it will be in Christmas week, so we can kind of cover and recap those games. And I think he'll come back. Yeah, that's true. If Tennessee wins by a couple of scores, I'm pretty sure Brian Day will be fired by the time he gets to the car.
That's assuming that he's not already a lame duck. He might already be there.
I understand that sentiment. And I understand why you have that sentiment. I totally get it. I've dealt with plenty of years of crappy coaches at Tennessee.
You have. I'm gonna go cry real quick.
let's not. First, let's talk portal because that's where Tennessee and Ohio State are winning. We're not losing in the portal right now. It's great. So
it's early.
Yeah, it's super early. Well, it's super early. What I mean by losing is like we don't have a bunch of people leaving. Like there are some like not as many not as many players, but there are still some players leaving that are on playoff teams. Like Dennis, you sent us something earlier about that Arizona State has players that are trying to leave. It's like
the surprising thing about that though is the head coach for Arizona State. He literally has been like open, like, hey, if you want to leave, great. You can still be here with the team, so you don't have to lose out on any potential opportunities that you may have in the future. He's like, but you're still part of this team as well. So like he's not saying like, okay, you want to transfer? Bye. He's literally saying, no, like do what's best for you. You're still here. Like we'd love to be able to still be around with your teammates and everything. So the way he's kind of pushing it is completely different from what I've seen other coaches or just other schools in general, just how they had handled any kind of transfers.
Sure.
And I think that's the way that most coaches are going to need to start approaching it, because it's going to happen regardless. So you just got to get used to it. Some of the things that I've seen, our backup quarterback, who lots of people love, and I'm blanking on Brown.
Devin Brown, yeah.
Devin Brown, he entered the portal and said that he was going to be going somewhere else, which again doesn't surprise me. He's going into his senior year, and they've got Sayan, which pairing up Sayan with JJ Smith for a couple of years, not a bad route to go. But he also said, I'm going to stay with my team. I'm going to play out the season with Ohio State, which again is like the reason so many people liked him and wanted him to beat out McCord and wanted him to do all these things was because of this kind of attitude. He's the guy that is going to agree with you, Darren. I was surprised. I expected him to with the Will Howard thing. But again, that's the cool thing about this kid is he's just like, he's open for the competition. He came in, he competed. He's all about his teammates. He's such a good kid, man. He's one of those guys, like if you could take like his energy and just his moxie and put that in every single player, my goodness, it would be amazing. But we're going to miss him. But that, again, the cool thing is seeing him go, I'm going to hit the portal, but I'm also a member of this team. And I know I'm the backup quarterback and I'm going to fulfill that commitment throughout the playoffs, however far we go. So I think that's a pretty cool thing to see is guys doing that as well.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, the thing is as we've talked about, the portal has only been open for a week.
Something like very short.
And if you were to guess which team right now has the most players that have entered the portal, do you want to guess what the number is? Not which team it is, but what the number is.
I'm going to say 12.
I was thinking that same number. I hate you.
24.
24.
Gee, what team? What school?
Arkansas.
What?
Arkansas.
Interesting.
No, surprisingly not. Yeah. USC is surprisingly not in the top 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are they counting from like when the portal opened or just like all season?
It's from
portal opening.
Portal open is when it matters. And
Arkansas.
Arkansas. You have UCF coming in second with 22, and Arizona with 21, coming in third.
Wow.
Which is just crazy to think about.
I mean, some of those don't really surprise me. UCF. I see UCF as kind of like, this is going to sound horrible. Hopefully nobody who likes UCF is listening, but like I see them as a feeder school. Like they're going to come in, they're going to do some good things, and then guys are going to try and take that kind of next step up. Arizona honestly doesn't surprise me. With new coach last year coming in, a bunch of guys stayed, and then kind of the way that their season ended up, it doesn't surprise me seeing them kind of go. Now Arkansas is kind of weird. Like,
sure,
I don't know. I just haven't seen much from them.
No,
so I don't know.
They were middle of the pack in the SEC for the most part all year, and they're on the right trajectory.
Sure,
but the thing is, Arkansas is usually never going to be a powerhouse,
right?
And players know that. Like and
there is one school though I think that's going to beat all of them, probably combined.
Who?
Marshall.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Like, I've heard rumors and threats of like the entire team entering the transfer portal. Which
would they go to Southern? Is that where that's where their coach is heading to, right?
He said Southern Mississippi.
Yeah.
He's like he won. I forget which conference Marshall was at. But he won the conference, and the school apparently was just like, "Hey, we're not going to renew your contract."
Yeah.
And the whole school, like all the entire team, is upset, and they're like, "So this is how you respect the coach?"
Yep.
Like
that would be funny.
I kind of hope it does. I'm not gonna lie. Like I hope
just going back to the chaos. Like, love
sure.
seeing chaos. Like that would be fun.
Like
so,
I would love it.
This is. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I would love it not just because of the chaos, but the fact that it shows basically the impact he had as a coach as well. Like if your players are able to support you that much, that like we're just gonna leave. Like some of these, a good portion of these players probably had scholarships, had probably some, I don't know their NIL, but they had a reason why they went to Marshall other than the coach, and they're willing to basically give that up because. Like they love their coach that much that they're like, we're gonna leave. We may not all follow him, but we're gonna leave because of this.
Sure. Yeah,
right.
So what have you guys heard any particular portal rumors or like a player that's may enter the, or it's like he's thinking about entering the portal? Like it's a rumor that you guys have been like, oh, I love that rumor. I love it so much. Have you guys? Is there one?
Hasn't really been confirmed, but it's been rumored.
Well, Fafita is the one that I like. It's been rumored. I think his dad came out and said like,
is that but it's never been confirmed though. Like if it's
true
or not.
And that's the thing is like is same thing happened last year when everybody was talking about Fafita going somewhere else. His dad came out and said no, he's not, and he ended up not. But so that's the one I've heard rumors of, but I think that one will happen. I think that one will happen.
My favorite one, and this only has been the past few days, but Lenore Sellers has been rumored to be flirting with the portal. And I'm just like, that is one hilarious because all of the South Carolina fans are just all up in arms because I don't believe he's actually going to leave, but it's just like, because he's flourishing there. He supposedly his brother's coming in to play with him next year. So like he gets to play with his little kid brother, like at South Carolina, which is also cool. Like,
hopefully he's not a little kid.
Well, he's kid brother, like his younger brother. Not like
he's kid, but I think like 10-year difference. I don't think like
no. Is this a Doogie Howser thing?
There's one I expect you to understand.
All right, so for those of you who are under like 35, Doogie Howser was a show. But
there's one that I'm kind of surprised with was Malik Murphy. Like because the way he was playing at Duke, the fact that they were always around the top 25, just kind of like, hey, we might be ranked this week, we might not. For him to just kind of leave Duke, it makes sense because he's definitely a great player. But it also the fact that he did so well, it just overall surprises me.
Sure.
Yeah, I think Duke's another one that's like, again, they're not necessarily, like I said, I called UCF a feeder school. They're not necessarily a feeder school, but they're a school that, like, if those one or two guys that are kind of the big names who kind of do a whole lot, they're going to go somewhere else. And they're going to try and, whether it's NIL, whether it's draft stock, whatever it may be, to try and move that up is the way I see it. But, I think this is always the really interesting not the real interesting, but this portal time always interests me because so much is made from it on, the numbers and, obviously the rivals are always funny. Like, Michigan, Ohio State, the rival banter about who's losing more players and, what's going on over there because you just lost. And really all that this is the guys who want to play. You're seeing a lot of seniors, a lot of juniors and seniors who want to go somewhere where they can actually play. They can get on the field. They can, probably not going to go to the NFL, but they want to go somewhere where they're gonna play and get that experience. And so it's always fun. I think for me, the more fun thing in the portal right now is the fan bases giving each other crap because of the portal.
Sure.
They're and a lot of my favorite players leave from my team in the portal. Devin Brown is leaving. Powers is leaving. One of our linebackers. And I get it. Like they're not going to see the field. But it's that part is, I think, the most fun to me.
Fair enough. But I think that as the playoff continues to change, the structure for the playoff continues to change, and National Signing Day gets moved, and all these other kinds of things. I think we're going to see the portal change, like when the season portal is going to be. Yeah, no, I agree. We're going to be going into mid January. Before the season's technically decided on who's the national champion.
Yep.
I'm like, you really, it's really unfair to.
The portal should open February 1st.
Yeah.
Not like anytime before then.
And then do away with the spring portal or something like that. Like, I don't know.
I mean, the fact that they did the opposite, it was like when they closed the window, I think to the second transfer, or they closed it entirely. I'm like, you closed the wrong window. Like you should close the one that's during the football season, not the one in the middle of the off season.
Yep.
Well, and a lot of that I think is coming from the fact that the NCAA had no plans for NIL for any of this stuff. Because I think a lot of the things you're going to see, portal windows are going to change when those portal windows open or close. Also, you're going to start to see some of these NIL deals be tied to games. Like, hey, here's your NIL deal. You're going to be getting game checks. And if we make it to the playoffs and you don't play in the playoffs, or if you don't play in a bowl game, there's going to be some money that you're not going to receive because of that. So
there's one thing I actually really love is the fact that Colorado, Coach Brown was actually saying that all his players are actually going to play in the bowl game. Like none of them are going to skip out. None of them and I'm like, I love the fact that he's doing that because they very well could. Travis Hunter easily could. Like he plays, again the entire game, so he's always at risk of getting hurt. His son, the same reason, the good one, not the bad one.
That doesn't clear anything up for me.
The quarterback. So it's like they potentially have more to lose than to gain. And I'm pretty sure his is worth a whole lot more.
This is an expensive Garmin watch.
It's like almost $1,000,
If I bought 5.
See, almost.
So it's like, no, I just respect the fact that like basically he's having his team still like, hey, no, we're going to play all the way through. But that's where I do believe where the NIL is going to try and change things. Is the fact that because so many players are optioning out of playing the bowl game because either draft or transfer portal and that, they're basically messing up the cost of like, hey, how people probably watching the game or showing up to the game, because now you have like, anywhere from just a few key players to like 20, 30 players not playing it, like not showing up for the team at all. So it's like,
yeah,
I'm watching an entirely different team than I watched even 2-3 weeks ago.
True. Yeah. True. Well, again, we appreciate Darren and Joseph for hanging out in the chat and hanging out there with us. Again, we won't be on next week at our normal time. I'll be flying. And in
an airplane. Not like a witch.
No, actually, there's a lot of Canadian geese around here. I was just gonna hitch a ride with one of them.
Yeah.
There's enough of them.
I mean, he is in Colorado. He could be flying a different way.
That's right.
That's true.
But I'm gonna be traveling back to Nashville for the holidays, which is gonna be awesome. We're gonna plan on trying to do potentially an in-person show, hopefully, following the first weekend of the wonderful playoffs. But until then, y'all, when we have another conversation, grab a drink and join that conversation.